President Trump is getting in the middle of a coup d'etat that's being engineered, and they intend to impeach him. First of all, they have no evidence that there's been any Russian collusion. This is a complete propaganda effort. Trump had been under electronic surveillance at the end of the Bush administration and through President Obama's first year in office. A lie, a propaganda disinformation campaign, is not defeated by information or the truth.
I welcome this kind of examination.
We came,
and for the international order that we have worked for generations to build.
A new world order. New world order.
We saw.
If suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe.
Always talk to you like they're the law. And then we're going to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House!
He died. He died.
But that's a wicked woman.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
You can keep it. Period. 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 They are the focus of evil in the modern world. It's a catastrophe.
Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome.
This is the Midnight Rider News Podcast. Hello, America and the world. Welcome to the Midnight Rider News Show. I'm St. Patrick, your friendly neighborhood host, traipsing through the trials and travails that have so tempestuously and untruthfully been blasted into your eyes, ears, and minds by the state-sponsored talking heads, court historians, and textbook conglomerates that control information today. Tonight we have episode 022, an hour with Dr. Jerome Corsi. Our featured guest is Dr. Jerome Corsi, and he'll join us next in the midnight hour. So the castle first must be sufficiently cleaned. Now I'd like to thank Leanne, Shara, and Amy for administering the Facebook page as I deal with my ongoing account problems with Facebook. Yes, they are still ongoing. The Facebook page, which is at Midnight Rider News Show, at Midnight Writer News Show, is in very capable hands, believe me. So please follow it so you can get updates as soon as they're posted. And the Twitter remains at MWN_STPatrick, at MWN_STPatrick. The LinkedIn account is under STPatrick, and the email is midnightwriternews@gmail.com. That's midnightwriternews@gmail.com. Once again, we'd like to ask you to email us and say hello. You know, it's both interesting to us and it's helpful to know where you're from, which episodes you liked, what parts of the show you enjoy most, and how many episodes you've heard thus far. And yes, we'd really just like to chat more with you and have a more personal relationship with those who so kindly listen to us. So, hey, contact us. Say hello. We'll be right back with the good doctor, Jerome Corsi. Roswell, Area 51 and Bob Lazar, MJ-12, JFK, Art Bell, 9/11, Disclosure, and what's really happening on the moon. The great John Lear joined us to talk about all of this and more.
Hi, this is John Lear. If you want to know how my experiences took me to the alternative side of history and how they both landed me in the middle of the Bob Lazar story, download episode 11 of the Midnight Rider News Show.
In 1968, Jerome R. Corsi received a Bachelor of Arts degree, graduating magna cum laude from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, where he majored in political science and economics. In 1972, he received a Ph.D. in political science from Harvard University in Cambridge, Mass. Since 2004, Dr. Corsi has published over 20 books, 6 of which were New York Times bestsellers. 2 of his books reached the top of the list, ranking number 1 on the New York Times nonfiction book list. Unfit for Command, Swift Boat Veterans Speak Out Against John Kerry, co-authored in 2004 with John O'Neill, and The Obama Nation, Leftist Politics and the Cult of Personality in 2008. Dr. Jerome R. Corsi currently serves as the Washington Bureau Chief for Infowars.com. Previously, Dr. Corsi worked for 12 years as a senior staff reporter for WND.com, which was previously called WorldNet Daily, from 2004 to January of 2017. We're really excited to have him on tonight. He has expertise in so many areas, and we're only going to be able to touch on a few things. So, Dr. Corsi, you've made a career on being a journalist who really challenges the journalistic establishment. Now, I was wondering what the point was where you really decided to do just that.
Well, I mean, I've been at this really since 2004. And what I realized early on was that the mainstream media was largely becoming essentially a mainstream media for the government. It's basically becoming a very partisan, very establishment mainstream media. And so the very first involvement I had was with the Swimboat Veterans for the Truth and with John Kerry. And what I realized was, again, I had known John O'Neill, who was a swimboat that commanded Kerry's boat when Kerry left Vietnam. We'd known each other since about 17 years old, and I had eczema. They wouldn't take me into the military, so I, at universities, did a lot of work for the federal government and had researched John Kerry and the Vietnam Veterans Against the War. So when Kerry was going to run for president in 2004, I reconnected with John O'Neill, and we were able to combine our work and really present to the American public the view of Kerry not as a military hero, but as a guy who had gotten these questionable Purple Hearts and had exaggerated his military record so that, I wanted to present a corrective. I wanted to present the truth. And John O'Neill was really the hero of that movement. I helped to write the book, got the book in print, and did a lot of work behind the scenes, but that was the launch of my career. I mean, I decided I had the opportunity then to go into journalism full time. I had been working in financial services around the world for maybe 25 years, and as a young man, I had been very involved in politics, but Unfit for Command got me back involved, and I really resolved that, the American people need to know the truth about politics, and that means debunking a lot of the mainstream media propaganda, which is like Pravda. It's in support of the government official position. And so I want to challenge that, and I've continued to challenge that.
You absolutely have. Now, I always believed that you were correct about John Kerry. Now, from what I remember, he wasn't even in the area when the events leading to the Purple Hearts were to have happened. And that wasn't the only fallacy being told by the mainstream media, was it?
Well, I mean, it goes into a lot of different issues. I mean, first of all, a couple of the Purple Hearts were self-inflicted wounds. And, and Kerry, I think the one you're referring to when he said he was in Cambodia, it's really not been established that Kerry did go to Cambodia in any secret mission like he had argued. So much of what Kerry's story about Vietnam that he proposed and was the substance of his campaign in 2004 was just really imaginary. And we debunked a lot of that and showed that Kerry had not been in Cambodia. There was no secret mission. The Purple Hearts were not for really, valor in combat, but many self-inflicted wounds. And that Kerry's boatmates essentially basically said, blow them off the island. Said, Kerry, you better get out of Vietnam. You're going to get us all killed. And Kerry was staging Vietnam as if he was conducting a movie. That's like, conducting a JFK movie. And he had his, home videos that were part of the campaign, even the convention staged around, saluting, Kerry saluting, saying, reporting for duty. Well, Kerry wasn't a Vietnam hero. And when he came back from Vietnam, he opposed the war and was really working with the very radical leftist Vietnam veterans against the war, meeting with Madam Binh, who was the chief negotiator of the Viet Cong while he was yet in the military reserves, which we believe got him a less than honorable discharge. And, all of these were facts that we brought out during the campaign, and it was part of the effort to correct the record and to reestablish the honor of those who had served in Vietnam, saying that they fought for freedom, they fought for justice, and this was not the army of Genghis Khan, burning and killing and raping like John Kerry represented, parroting KGB propaganda.
Speaking of JFK, you've done some great work regarding the assassination. Now, you're also involved in the Oswald Innocence Campaign, so I want to ask you about the famous Alt-Gen 6 photograph that may show Oswald on the doorsteps of the Texas School Book Depository at the time when Kennedy's motorcade passes by. Are you convinced that it's Oswald on the doorsteps, thus making him innocent?
There's no doubt in my mind that I've worked with Ralph Sinclair and the Oswald Innocence Project, which is really a group of scholars, a very increasingly large group of people who are, deep students of the Kennedy assassination, presenting, I think, incontrovertible proof that the photograph, the Alt-Gen 6 photograph taken by, the AP photographer, which shows in the background when the first shot for hitting JFK, there's a figure that looks just like Oswald, but it is Oswald. And there's good forensic evidence for this. I mean, I think the work that's been done on the measurements, the nature of the shirts, one of the things that convinced me early on was that Billy Lovelady, whom they represented, was in the photograph instead of Oswald at the doorway. Lovelady was a smoker. And the photographs, he always had a pack of cigarettes in a pocket in his shirt. His right-hand pocket of his shirt had a pack of cigarettes. Well, in the figure in the doorway in the Alt-Gen 6 photograph, there's no cigarettes in that pocket. Or in the left hand, neither one. I mean, there's no breast cigarette pack. And in fact, in the Hughes film, you can see what they call the doorway man, waiting for the motorcade to turn the corner, and he's not smoking a cigarette. Well, and then later, subsequently, in the photographs where, Lovelady said, here's the shirt I wore that day, which was the striped red and blue shirt, there's no cigarette pack in either right or left breast. And so that's not the shirt that he was seen photographed in with what they call Gorilla Man and the Martin photographs. And it's very clear to me that Oswald, who for years we didn't have the transcripts from his police interviews, they were lost. And then suddenly they appeared about 15 years ago, and Oswald told the police he was outside watching the motorcade, and I think the Alt-Gen 6 photograph proves that Oswald was outside watching the motorcade.
Right. The Oswald Innocence Campaign, which can, by the way, be found at oswald-innocent.com, has also been recently notable for not only taking up the case of Lee Harvey Oswald, but also that of Jack Ruby. Now, what are your thoughts on the idea that Jack Ruby was innocent in the shooting of Oswald?
Well, it is, and look, I first saw when Ralph and the others in the Oswald Innocence Project, and you can see the Oswald Innocence Project, by the way, both on Facebook, and there's also a blog, the Oswald Innocence blog. The Jack Ruby wasn't the shooter. Now, at first when I read, I said, now they've really gone off the deep edge, and then I started really looking at the research. First of all, Jack Ruby did not remember shooting Oswald. He remembers everybody jumping on him and telling him he shot Oswald, but it was like he had a blackout. He didn't remember it. And then the photographs of the shooter of Oswald, which looks like Ruby, everybody said was Ruby, he's wearing light gray socks. And then in the photographs taken of Jack Ruby in the police lineups and police photography immediately after the shooting, he's wearing dark socks. Now, the Dallas Police Department didn't have a change of clothes. And I'm looking at that and saying, how does this guy go from light gray socks to dark socks? And then I started looking at the photographs and thinking about it, and I began to realize that, again, we're dealing with an event, Jack Kennedy's assassination, that today we'd call a deep state assassination, a coup d'etat. And in fact, it was staged so that what you think you're seeing is in fact the image that the CIA and the others want you to see. And it's an engineered image. It's not the real image. And, it begins to open your eyes. And it's kind of like your eyes open up. You begin to realize that Lee Harvey Oswald was framed. And it's kind of like, you pop open your mind and say, okay, what else was I wrong about? What else? And then Jack Ruby may not have been the shooter. And then you begin to realize that, if this was a coup d'etat staged by the CIA with the willing compliance of the mainstream media, we were watching a staged event that was staged to lead us to a certain conclusion. And the more research I've done, going back to Guatemala and Howard Hunt, and the coup where they had a patsy kill the head of state, and a pattern that's very Arbenz. And this is very, very similar to what was done with, repeating the pattern with Kennedy killed by Oswald, a patsy. And then you realize that Lovelady and maybe others were also there as potential patsies. And this was a staged event. And you begin to say, again, how many times have the mainstream media framed events where we're led to come to a conclusion, which is the official state conclusion, and if you dare to question it, you're branded a conspiracy theorist.
I guess I should naturally ask then, if it wasn't Jack Ruby who shot Oswald, then who did? I ask because I've even heard the theory tied to the idea that Oswald had been shot in a back room beforehand.
See, there's several parts of the Oswald shooting. Once you've been looking at it, Oswald is shot, and he grimaces and he falls to the floor. There's no blood on the floor. You don't see any blood when Oswald is shot. Okay, there's no blood at all. Okay, now that's pretty mysterious. I mean, how could there be a shooting like this and no blood? And then, secondly, the guy who's been identified has been, an FBI-affiliated agent who was there and seen in the photographs. In fact, Oswald's talking to him in one of the photographs before he's shot. He's being paraded through the police halls, the Dallas Police Department. His name is, I think, Bookhart, or B-O-O-K something. I'm not getting the exact name right, but it's identified as a site. And I'm pretty convinced that, Ralph Sinquay and the others are on to something, that this is a major kind of revision that we've got to look at. Maybe Oswald was told that, this was part of getting him out of town, and that he went along with it, and then he's shot on scene, and, the whole Oswald shooting is bizarre to begin with. I saw it live. I mean, 1963, I was about 17 years old. I'm watching it live, and the whole thing was remarkable. Immediately, I thought, this is a mob hit. This is silencing him. I mean, I didn't go so far as to think it wasn't Jack Ruby at the time, but it was obvious to me in 1963, watching it on live TV, that we were being lied to.
Moving into the 1990s now, many may remember the Clintons' involvement with scandals such as Whitewater, Travelgate, and of course, Monica Lewinsky. What may not be so common to most people, however, is the Clinton involvement in scams regarding both HIV and AIDS and Haiti. What should we know about those?
Well, when I wrote Partners in Crime, and a lot of this comes from Charles Ortell's research. I mean, Charles has been brilliant on this, and I followed him for years. I've known Charles for over 10 years. I think he's one of the most brilliant analysts on Wall Street, who really deconstructed the Clinton Foundation and proved that it was a criminal conspiracy. Charles said, look, the Clintons began with this foundation and began getting on the theme that they were going to solve HIV/AIDS. They were at a global meeting with Mandela, and they just declared that this was a new purpose of their foundation. They didn't refile to get IRS approval. There's no new determination letter. I mean, the entire thing was done completely without regulatory approval, which is major felonies in terms of running a foundation. And then they said, look, we're going to raise all this money for HIV/AIDS in Africa. Well, the Clintons went to the Unit Aid, which is a French program taxing French airline passengers, a tariff, which is used and collected by the World Health Organization of the UN and in Geneva, and applied to solve AIDS, HIV in the third world. Well, the Clintons come in and they say early on, this is going to go going back into the early parts of the foundation, saying, well, we can bring all this, our names and global purchasing power. We can buy generic HIV drugs at a discount and get you, Unit Aid, more bang for your buck. So Unit Aid sends hundreds of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation, only part of which is reflected in the Clinton Foundation financials. The Unit Aid says they're sending them much more money than the Clinton Foundation records receiving. And then the Clinton Foundation goes and buys these drugs in India from a firm called Ranbaxy that was producing defective HIV, AIDS generic drugs that would not have cured anyone. And these drugs get shipped to Africa. The Clintons in their glossy annual reports show all the good they're doing in Africa. Well, the Clintons are running the AIDS program out of a shadowy office in South Boston that you can't find out how many people work there or what they do. Even if the drugs were delivered to Africa, there's no way to get them distributed. There's no distribution system to get them into the local communities. And even if they did, the drugs are defective. It wouldn't cure anybody. So the Clintons end up raking off hundreds of millions of dollars, telling people that they're going to solve HIV/AIDS in a scam where they buy defective drugs, deliver them, and don't have any way to get them to the people. So it had nothing to do with curing AIDS. It had to do with the Clintons taking a theme that is heart-wrenching. People dying of HIV/AIDS is a horrible disease, and, regardless of how they get it, it's one you don't want anyone to die from. And the Clintons exploit this, so they make millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that are off the books in their pockets, when in fact they're telling the people of the world and the glossy, Clinton Foundation brochures and Clinton Global Initiative annual meetings that they're solving the problem of AIDS. Well, they're not. It's a scam. And I found that to be horrendously offensive and something that, how could you exploit people who have this disease? And they're telling you to solve the problem by defective drugs. You don't get them delivered. The drugs don't cure anybody. And you get produced pictures solving the problem of AIDS in Africa. You're not. It's a lie.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing about many of our progressive politicians that we've had over the last 40 years, Dr. Corsi. They campaign and they idealize care for the poor, yet they go into the poorest continent in the world, and they not only worsen what has been a health emergency for decades, but they profit from it.
And they exploit it. Same in Haiti. Haiti suffers this horrendous earthquake. Hillary is Secretary of State. Bill gets himself appointed envoy to the UN to Haiti. They go in and say, we're here to solve the problem. And they literally raise billions of dollars, including billions of dollars from taxpayers via the State Department. And, none of the money ends up, a very small percentage ends up actually helping the people in Haiti. They put in these shanty towns. They bring the UN police force in. It does the sanitation of the UN police force compound so poorly, it creates a cholera epidemic in Haiti. And then billions of dollars are gone. The homes aren't built. The people are in the same starving condition they were before, living in these shanty towns in Haiti. And the Clintons are building a resort in part of the island that only the international conventions are going to come to, bringing in one of their cronies from Ireland, who's also been running scams with the Clintons with Irish money. And then they do a cell phone scam, and they do a pay credit card scam. It's on and on with the Clintons. And it ends up in Haiti that billions of dollars go missing. The Haiti people today are getting in misery from that earthquake. And the Clintons are gone, but yet they're rich from what the scams they conducted. I wrote a whole chapter about it in Partners in Crime.
The thing is, I don't think it's the end. I mean, this is a pattern of behavior, and sadly, a pattern of personal enrichment, and that's intoxicating to those who engage in such behaviors. There is no quit. So you'll be doing stories on the Clintons, I believe, for the next 20 years, and maybe more if we start talking about Chelsea.
Well, it looks like they're going back into the business. I mean, Hillary's looking like she's writing a book, and she's now reviving fundraising for the Clinton Foundation. I mean, I had meetings today in New York City where we're organizing to do another campaign to expose the corruption and to demand Justice Department investigations of prosecution. And, the Justice Department, and I don't know what Jeff Sessions is doing. So far, he's been pretty disappointing. I want him to go after the Clintons, and these are major. I mean, the Clintons have taken charitable giving, and they've corrupted it to the point where any former head of state, including down Barack Obama setting up a foundation, this is a get-rich-Clinton scheme where they can live in the best hotels, fly on the best jets, have the best five-star meals, meet with all the elite around the world, Bono and everybody else, all of these people, and saying, well, we're doing great good. They're not doing great good.
Nope, they are not.
If you really closely examine what happens to the money, the accounting is fraudulent, the money is not accounted for, and it's siphoned off to the Clintons' lifestyle and their personal bank accounts. Bill Clinton has now had to admit, and I read about it in Partners in Crime, that he had, pass-through bank accounts under, WJC, William Jefferson Clinton, Inc., that were set up under the Panama Papers. They show up as offshore bank accounts. This is what money launderers do, criminal money launderers. And the Clintons are nothing but criminal money launderers.
Now, we'll absolutely return to the Clintons in a few minutes, but let's move to 9/11. So this is 2001, and it's been 16 years since the events in Manhattan, Washington, D.C., and a field in Pennsylvania. Now, it seems like an ever-increasing number of people worldwide are skeptical of the official story of 9/11. Now, Dr. Corsi, you're a truth-teller and a researcher who's made a living out of questioning official stories. So what do you think really happened on 9/11?
Look, the entire 9/11 incident is fraught with questions that have not been answered. The bin Laden family was working with the Bushes in the White House. They were put in airplanes and transported back to Saudi Arabia as soon as the 9/11 event happened. What were they doing here? Who were they? Why were they exported out of the country in a stealth fashion? The buildings came down. It certainly looks like it was a staged, planned, detonation. And Building 7 came down. It wasn't hit by anything. Why? And then there's good evidence been done, of the chemical analysis of the debris that shows that there was the kind of explosives in place. The buildings were just refinanced. I mean, let's face it, the World Trade Center were old buildings. They were built in the 70s. They were filled with asbestos. The owner of the building had them refinanced. I mean, what's that all about in terms of the insurance coverage? I mean, serious questions have yet to be answered about how the buildings came down, the way they came down, and buildings that were not hit by the terrorists, why they came down. And again, as soon as you begin to realize that the deep state, and this is the intelligence agencies and the banks, and what President Eisenhower called the military-industrial complex, or the neocons wanting to have war. Events are staged in order to, I think, create coups d'etats, which I believe John Kennedy's assassination was. John Kennedy was moving towards wanting to work directly with Khrushchev, wanting to establish a stand down on nuclear weapons, did not want to fight in Vietnam or Laos, and was very threatening. I mean, his American University speech I've said for many years, and I wrote, Who Really Killed JFK? That book, I said, was really John Kennedy signing his death warrant when he gave this great speech saying, the Russians are like us. They want to grow old and die in their beds with their grandchildren around them. And he wanted peace. And the warmongers, the military-industrial complex, the bankers, Federal Reserve, all of these power brokers, which I think have been causing wars, for centuries, including before World War I, forcing us into a tragic war with Germany that I don't think needed to be fought, and certainly we didn't need to be involved, created the Federal Reserve in the process, Woodrow Wilson in 1913, before we were propelled into this disastrous war. And, you look back on these things and realize that John Kennedy, when he wanted to make peace, not war, it targeted himself for assassination. And you come forward today and, here Donald Trump is not going along with the with the deep state, with the bankers, creating wars. He's saying we could have a better relationship with Russia, we could have a better relationship with China. These are very threatening statements to those who are making billions of dollars financing munitions in the United States and around the world. We're still the biggest maker of arms in the world, biggest arms seller. Why? It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense at all. And the CIA, I think Jack Kennedy's big mistake was when he said he wanted to break it up into 1,000 pieces when he realized the CIA lied to him at the Bay of Pigs. But he didn't do it that day. And he fired Alan Dulles, who I name and who killed JFK, as the chief plotter behind the assassination plot on JFK, which was executed, I believe, as a coup d'etat. Lyndon Johnson, beneficiary, knowing it was going to happen. Richard Nixon in Dallas the day it happened and lying about it. I mean, these are things that I think Americans can handle the truth, and we need to increasingly be writing and exposing the truth so Americans can wrap their minds around the fact that a mainstream media bought and paid for by the CIA is going to lie to them.
Have you done any research which would lead you to a conclusion about what you believe created the damage to the Pentagon on 9/11?
Well, I don't know. I've not gone in as deeply into that one as I have into the JFK assassination case. I just know that 9/11 merits much additional study. Jack Cashill did great work on the TWA 800. All of these things are major puzzles that involve deconstructing the deep state lies that we've been told by the mainstream media controlled, bought and paid for by the CIA. And I don't have answers to the 9/11 the way I do JFK because I spent a lot more time studying JFK. And but I do think the 9/11 merits equal study.
You really took a lot of flack on your work with the Obama birth certificate issue. Now, I always felt that it was an issue that Americans were simply not prepared to deal with in any substantial way. And I mean, what they wanted was for him to be the president. They wanted the moment to occur, they wanted it in the history books, and they absolutely wanted the clear conscience that we believed came with being a part of it. But, I don't know, Dr. Corsi. I mean, to me, it still seems like Barack Obama is a puzzle. I mean, basic facts that should be easily enterable on a bio or a job application still seem disputable. I mean, who were his parents? There are rumors of Frank Marshall Davis potentially being his biological father. There are still rumors about his sexuality and, yes, even Michelle's gender. And then, is he the only man that apparently had no friends in college who actually vouched that he was there? So of course the birth certificate still remains an issue today. Who really is Barack Obama?
The bottom line, I think, is we don't know. After all the work done, we don't know. What we know is that the birth certificate that was released by the White House on, I believe, April 27, 2011, was a computer-generated forgery that did not exist in 1961. And the Department of Health in Hawaii has never shown an original birth certificate information that they supposedly have. Now, Sheriff Arpaio, I think, did the definitive law enforcement work and proved that both the birth certificate released by the White House in 2011 and Barack Obama's selective service card were forgeries. Barack Obama seems to me to be a CIA legend, a created personality. You know, with records that we can't get, his school records. We don't know if he applied as a foreign student. We don't know if he got student aid as a foreign student. We don't know what his grades were. I mean, how did he go from a marginal C student at, you know, Occidental College into Columbia? And why at Columbia does no one remember that he attended? You know, I mean, these are issues. And then we know that Barack Obama's passport records were breached by a private security firm that in 2008 during the campaign, and it was done by a security firm owned by John Brennan, who then ends up in the White House as National Security Advisor and ends up for Barack Obama heading the CIA. I mean, it's clear. I mean, it's obvious to me that this is a sanitized, created personality that we don't know the truth about who he really is, where he came from, who his parents are, what his history was, who funded him, you know, how he emerged in Chicago politics. Resco's in prison. You know, all the people who were prominent in Barack Obama's rise to power are dead or in prison. Fuddy, who was the Hawaii Department of Health official who validated this bogus birth certificate released by the White House as a computer printout, 2011 was authentic, dies in a very suspicious plane crash in which, you know, she's the only one in this plane crash in Hawaii who dies in the crash. Everybody else survives. I mean, the entire thing is suspicious, and the point is we don't have verifiable birth records for Barack Obama. We don't have verifiable school records. We don't even know for sure what his name is. Is he Mary Sotoro? The passport records from his mother, name of his Soy Barca, out of Indonesia. What's that all about? We don't know all these details.
And I'll say it again, it was a moment in history when people didn't seem to care about the Constitution as much as they believed they were voting for a character on a reality show.
Well, you know, the left, I think, would like to make, and certainly the CIA would like to make presidential elections into like voting for Dancing with the Stars. You know, he had the right mojo. He danced with Ellen DeGeneres. He came down an airplane ramp. He had the right mojo. You know, and so we're all supposed to look at him as kind of this hip-hop character and vote for him. But when you ask the hard questions that we should ask of our leaders, you know, where did you come from? He was only in the Senate for 2 years and he ran for president. He had done no significant legislation when he was in the Illinois Senate. This is a guy who came from nowhere with no record, you know, but he had a good rap, and he, you know, had, you know, Will I Am could do a nice song for him. And, you know, compared to John McCain, who was doing Bomb, 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 Bomb Iran, looked like an old man. Obama clearly had the hip-hop pizzazz to the charisma to capture the vote of the, you know, millennials and younger voters, and to actually narrowly defeat McCain, who would not even allow anybody to point out that, you know, Obama's middle name was Hussein Obama.
Why did he do that, Dr. Corsi? Why did McCain run a campaign that was so inept and so unchallenging?
I think McCain, from the very beginning, was bought and paid for by Soros and was happy to lose. I mean, sure, McCain would love to be president, but he also had a nice consolation prize losing. And McCain has always gone for the money. You know, he ditched his first wife, who suffered a horrendous car accident and had gained weight, was crippled. When he came back from Vietnam, he ditched her and married his current wife, who was part of the Kemper-Marley crime family in Arizona and had the Budweiser distributorship, going back to bootlegging in the 30s. I've written extensively about that. And McCain went with the money, went with the pizzazz. McCain has been funded by Soros for maybe 30 years and is not a true conservative. And this has been a problem with McCain. And So the Republican Party, and Phyllis Schlafly was right when she wrote this book in the 60s actually, about Goldwater's emergence, choice is not an echo. The Republican Party, going back to Tom Dewey, tends to pick these centrist Republicans who are like Democratic light, and they lose because McCain had no platform that wasn't, Me Too Obama. And here Obama's, fresh figure. I mean, I wrote The Abomination. I tried to point out to people, wait, this is a radical Saul Alinsky Marxist, with roots in radical ideologies going back to Frantz Fanon, the African. And it was writing in his own autobiography, which I still think Bill Ayers authored, passages that were almost lifts of Frantz Fanon passages out of Africa. Frantz Fanon was a psychiatrist. He advocated killing whites as part of purging blacks of the colonial mentality. And Obama embraced that ideology and represented it in, Dreams from My Father. And I pointed this out and warned people this was not a Bill Clinton moderate compromiser. This was a Saul Alinsky, hard, radical. Bill Ayers and Barack Obama began his political career in Bill Ayers' living room. I pointed that out in Abomination. And, people yet excused Obama and wanted to believe that he was going to be a uniter. I said Barack Obama was going to be a race divider who would end up a weakened country economically with a double debt, a weakened country militarily with a weakened military, and racially divided because Obama would rub raw the racial tension and create virtually a race war, and that's what he's done.
Oh, you absolutely had Barack Obama pegged from the beginning. For anyone out there, I would recommend The Abomination as a book. It's really important. It was important then, and it's important now. Now, there was a rumor that McCain didn't go after Obama on the birth certificate issue because he, too, was born outside the country.
Well, see, I researched that very thoroughly, and the hospital he was born on was on the base. And actually, the Congress, I believe the Senate, passed a resolution saying that McCain was natural born because, he was born on this base, and there were exceptions in the law that if you were born outside the country, but it was for military reasons, your parents were out of the country for military reasons, you were born on a base of a hospital on the base, that was as good as having been born on U.S. territory, as opposed to, Barack Obama, that we still don't know where he was born. No hospital has really produced definitive records in Hawaii. We don't know that his mother was a patient in any hospital in Hawaii. The records have never been forthcoming. And so, in fact, Barack Obama, I think, was one of the sponsors to that resolution. I wrote about it in my book on Where's the Birth Certificate, which I think still has extremely good information about all the lies told. And, Barack Obama's mother and father never lived together. Suppose this, the African Obama and Dunham never had the same address. The Immigration Naturalization Service said if Barack Obama Sr., the Kenyan, applies for citizenship because he married this woman and had a baby, we don't believe it. We don't think it's his child. That's in the records of the Immigration Naturalization Service from the year in which Obama was born, 1961. Barack Obama Sr. files out his extension of his visa status as a student within days of when Barack Obama Jr. was born. And Barack Obama, the Kenyan, does not mention that he's married or that he has a child. Would he forget?
When your own paternal grandparents say you were born somewhere, that should hold some weight, should it not? Because they did say he was born in Africa, correct?
Yes, they said he was born in Africa. And they're on tape saying he was born in Africa.
This becomes even more twisted when you realize that there are rumors and stories that Barack Obama Sr. was not even the biological father of Barack Obama Jr.
No.
Who do you think Barack Obama Jr.'s biological father was?
He doesn't appear, he looks more like a guy named Subud, who was an Indonesian running a cult. There was an CIA cult at the time in Indonesia. And by the way, Fuddy, the the Hawaii Department of Health official who validated this was the birth certificate was one of the Subud cult. And he looks identical to Subud. He looks Indonesian to me. Now, I don't know whether Subud and Ann Dunham are the parents. This is the point. We don't have enough records that are authentic to know who Barack Obama's family really is, his parents, or where he was born or how he was raised. We just don't have the records. The records are gone. And the mystery is such that he could easily be Indonesian. And yet maybe Ann Dunham went to Africa to have him born, to try to prove that he was Barack Obama Sr.'s son, and maybe get the family in Africa to buy into it. We don't know.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. And speaking of deception, let's turn to Benghazi. Now, I can't understand how anyone could think the station at Benghazi was just a sort of out-of-the-way way station that was randomly attacked by some terrorists just because, as George Bush said, they hate our freedom. So what was really going on at the station at Benghazi?
Well, again, this is another big deep state secret because, the ambassador who was killed, Christopher, what's his last name, who was
Stevens,
killed?
I believe it was.
But, the ambassador who was killed, came into Benghazi initially to run guns before he was the ambassador. And Hillary was running guns through Benghazi and supplying, through a complicated pattern, the militants fighting in Syria. And we were essentially funding and arming what became ISIS. Now, when the ambassador was killed in the Benghazi incident, immediately Hillary, who told her daughter that night that this was a terrorist attack, went public, and the Obama administration went public, blaming it on this video. Because what they were saying was that, the narrative, they were running against Romney for president when this whole incident in Benghazi occurred. And the narrative was that they had saved GM and they killed Obama, Osama bin Laden, and that the terrorists were on the run because of the Obama administration. Well, Benghazi, for a terrorist event, was a narrative that would have been inconsistent with the idea that the Obama administration going for re-election was winning the terrorist war. And this was a theme that Romney tried to articulate, and the mainstream media pounded him down. But we now know that, Susan Rice went out that next couple days into the, Sunday television programs and, again blamed the movie, and the Obama administration knew that was a lie. Now, that's the whole basic lie at the heart of Benghazi. And I think that dogged Hillary through the campaign. I think was one of the reasons she lost.
Who is Huma Abedin?
Well, Huma Abedin is another one. She's a Muslim Brotherhood, and Huma Abedin had managed to ingratiate herself to Hillary as her, kind of like her body woman, and worked her way up through the White House to become very close to Hillary, and then Hillary took her into the State Department as her number 2 or 3 aide. Now, Huma Abedin was constantly favoring the Muslim Brotherhood. She married Weiner, who was the congressman who was doing the sexting, and then it came out, and I did a lot of work on this, that, Judicial Watch got Huma Abedin's emails released. Huma Abedin, I've discovered, was sending them to her Yahoo email account. Hundreds of thousands of emails from the State Department, which is a complete violation of the national security laws of handling classified material. And this was really, when we pointed this all out, and the New York Police Department went in and seized Weiner's laptop, that the investigation for a few days at the end of the campaign was reopened at Hillary's emails. And I think Huma Abedin, yet today, ought to be brought criminal charges for the mishandling of State Department classified information. And yet she's gotten a pass on all of this, and Hillary's gotten a pass. Both Hillary and Barack Obama packed the State Department and various parts of the Pentagon with Muslim Brotherhood sympathizers and supported the Muslim Brotherhood through this Arab Spring, including supporting Morsi in Egypt, who was Muslim Brotherhood and bringing the Muslim Brotherhood into power before al-Sisi had a coup and started to criminalize the Egyptian Brotherhood, Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. And again, this, the whole destabilization of Libya, Egypt, all through northern Africa in the Obama administration was part of Huma Abedin, Hillary, and Barack Obama supported the Muslim Brotherhood. And again, this is another story which I think dogged Hillary during the campaign. But yet, I don't think Donald Trump has had time or really put the attention to, rooting out in the State Department, the Pentagon, all these Muslim Brotherhood who are still there.
Oddly enough, Dr. Corsi, many people that I speak to can't quite get a grip on the email story. They say something akin to, well, we all send and receive emails at home. Why shouldn't politicians be able to do the same thing? What's the big deal? So for those people, what is the big deal? How can we simplify this story to explain it better?
Well, when you go into public office, especially in the State Department or the Pentagon or White House, you will have read the national security laws and you're briefed on them. Basically, if you're going to handle classified information, which is top secret information of the U.S. government, you have to do it on computers and email servers that are monitored by the government and provided by the government, so that the government has the opportunity to secure those communications. If you breach that with a private server, or if you send these emails to a private email address like Huma Abedin did with her Yahoo account, you're now in serious violation of national security laws regarding the handling of classified information. There's a sailor in prison who took a photograph of his desk, which was classified information in a submarine, I believe, and sent it to his parents. Pretty innocent. And here you've had Hillary with a private email server, which I think was designed to cover up the pay-for-play scandal she was doing with the Clinton Foundation and granting favors like selling U.S. uranium to Russia, which she did for Frank Giustra in Canada, a major contributor to the Clinton Foundation, and Huma Abedin, who may have been transferring hundreds of thousands of emails from the State Department onto a Yahoo server and then sold or supplied to the Muslim Brotherhood around the world the email address and the password to that account so they could read the emails. I mean, these are serious breaches of classified information, and the protocol government has established for the handling of classified information that should have put Hillary and Huma Abedin and several others, including Cheryl Mills, her attorney, I believe, into federal prison.
One of the most highly debated issues, online at least, in 2017, Dr. Corsi, was the Pizzagate story. Now, I want to know if you believe the Pizzagate story, and somewhat linked to that, I'd like to know what you know about Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, first of all, Jeffrey Epstein and his, island have been well documented to have been a pedophile scandal. And Bill and Hillary Clinton were on the airplane, as were many others, and I think are deeply implicated in the scandal. Pizzagate, which came out through WikiLeaks, Julian Assange is usually correct, and there must be something there. Now, he laid that on particular pizza, parlor and Podesta, and I've not researched or written about that, so I'm really not qualified to go into any detail on any of that. Now, you asked me about whether or not I believe that the elite or that Epstein and the Clintons involved in this pedophile island were involved in pedophilia or basically selling children for sexual purposes, basically trafficking in humans for sex purposes. I think the elite around the world are engaged in these activities, and I think there's plenty of evidence for it. You can see in Haiti, one of the women who was very tied to the Clintons was prosecuted for basically selling children who were in an orphanage into sex slavery. And these kinds of incidents are there and are verifiable. Now, the Pizzagate itself, I think, merits a lot further investigation. And, I don't think that the evidence is yet established that would pin it on Podesta or the owner of that pizza parlor. But certainly, the smoke is there, which says, it merits further investigation. And I'm confident that, at the heart of the globalist corruption, there is this pedophilia. I mean, I'm born and raised a Catholic. It's a tremendous disappointment to me of the priest scandal around the world, and especially in the United States, of the priests who engage in pedophilia, with young boys. I mean, it's deeply disturbing and deeply shakening to know that this kind of behavior is documented, and Catholic Church had to pay out hundreds of millions of dollars in damages. And, this is the kind of corruption that the elite globalists around the world think that they can engage in with impunity. And I find it completely disgusting. And I find it something that, deserves much more attention, much more study. I applaud movies like The Spotlight, which highlighted the investigations done by the Boston Globe to reveal the pedophilia in the Catholic Church in Boston. And it's just appalling to me that this corruption at the heart of the Catholic Church is now a proven fact. And I'm certain it is in other areas, other forms of the elite, and I think there's evidence for it. And I deplore it and would like to see if we can't shed light on this over the future so that we can eliminate sex trafficking worldwide, which has occurred in third world countries and has been exploited by the globalist elite.
From Infowars.com, I want to thank Dr. Jerome Corsi for being on the show tonight. Thanks a lot, Dr. Corsi.
A great pleasure. Great to be with you, and I look forward to coming back.
I'm S.T. Patrick. This is the Midnight Rider News Show. We'll be right back. The JFK assassination, Watergate, and the October surprise. Yes, even Pizzagate and the Trump administration. Author Donald Jeffries joined us on episode 004 of the Midnight Rider News Show to talk about his book, Hidden History.
Hi, this is author Donald Jeffries. When I want even more hidden history, I visit MidnightRiderNews.com and listen to the Midnight Rider News Show with S.T. Patrick.
So go to MidnightRiderNews.com and download episode 004 of the Midnight Rider News Show today. I want to take a late night moment to talk about Donald Trump. No, I don't want to talk about Russia, or North Korea, or appointments, or immigration. I want to talk about Trump the archetype. Before 2016, there were a few common wishes that many Americans had about the presidency. We wished the president would not come from the world of politics. We wished the president would not be an overpolished, rehearsed result of the political machine. We wish that the president would just say what he was thinking and not strategize every word. Many even blatantly wished he would be a bit of an aggressor and would use some salty language and, let's say, colorful descriptions. There was a reason that, at the height of reality television, The Apprentice was the #1 show in America. That reason was Donald Trump. He embodied everything Americans claim to want in a leader. He was a no-nonsense guy in dealing with failure and incompetence. There were no excuses. There was only,
"You're fired."
He knew what he wanted the results to be, popular or not, and he expected complete loyalty and satisfaction in the work brought before him. That is what we loved. That is what we wanted. So now, as we move in on the 1-year anniversary of the election of 2016, many Americans are taking their emotional marching orders from their favorite press outlet and favorite talking heads. Yes, the ones that take their marching orders from the corporatocracy and politicos we all claim to despise. Now, when he fires employees for a lack of loyalty or dissatisfaction with their work, now he doesn't know what he's doing? What happened to you believing that that was a great leader? Now when he uses salty language and stands as an aggressive figure who solely sees his goals as the only ends, now he's unbending and an extremist? When he shoots off the cuff, now he's crude and uncouth? Really? Now? What happened to that being exactly what you wanted? We always knew that it was the antithesis of what the media elites really wanted. The mainstream media is absolutely in bed with what we kept saying we don't want. Who else is going to anger the media so rather than someone who is anti-establishment? But you're saying that you don't want that now. So now the media is right? Your favorite media is right? So let me get this straight. If you're honest, 100% honest, you can now say that you want someone polished, that you want someone who has experience in politics, that you want someone who is a politician, someone who carefully measures every word, and someone the mainstream media likes. And believe me, you will get someone like that in 2020, and many of you will vote for him. I just hope that you're honest with yourselves, and I hope that you no longer say that you want anything other than that, because that is what you will get. And then it'll all feel normal again. You'll be able to sit, breathe deeply, and feel confident that things are normal again. And that feeling of comfort is exactly what you want. From the other side of the mountain, on the best side of midnight, I wish you peace.
The Midnight Rider News Show with St. Patrick is a production of MidnightRiderNews.com. Copyright belongs to St. Patrick and all rights reserved. You can email us at midnightridernews@gmail.com, and be sure to visit midnightridernews.com for the best in alternative historical analysis. This is Leanne saying thank you for listening, have a great night, and always remember, when life throws you lemons, throw them back and demand chocolate.